Not a, oh, there we are then.
No, there we are then. Like a proper, oh, there we go.
Oh, are we live?
It says we're live. Yes, we are live. I see it.
Cool. Shall we share it around a little bit while we wait for some people to join?
Oh, however, there is a delay on my movements and my face is bad enough as it is.
We are sharing. Where are we sharing to? To, whoops. Share it into there. And share it into. Where else can we share to? Oh, I hope that I don't start the cough again.
Bad cough.
Bad cough.
Bad cough is bad.
Ah, Beck says that she can see and hear us, so that's good.
Start.
People can see and hear us. It means it's working, which is
Yeah,
great.
maybe.
Oh, hang on a minute, my phone's doing something now. There we go. Hello. So anyway, shall we do the thing where we've just pretended that we haven't, just had like a pause while we deal with technology and hope that it works?
You should have some sort of like loading jingle.
Yeah, we need like somebody needs to do us like a little jingle, don't they?
Do one right now. Be like, this is the jingle. There you go. There was my singing. Did you like it?
This is the jingle.
This is the jingle.
I mean, I feel like that's really appropriate because like it's very like literal and autistic.
I agree. Very literal. Very
Anyway,
autistic.
right, we've got a few people joined, so hopefully some more people will join when they. This is the thing with the Facebook Live thing because they've made it like quite impossible to go live on Facebook and across platform using different, and it's become more and more difficult to do. So we'll
Mhm.
apologise that we are relying, going, we can't do the scheduling thing because we have to do links externally, and then they don't like external links. And anyway, we're trying to solve that problem. But for now, you've got us just streaming live at a particular time to the Facebook page. So welcome to Autistic Parents UK, and we do a monthly webinar. Webinar Q&A. We're not doing a webinar. What's the difference? I think a webinar is like a presentation, isn't it?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
have not brought a PowerPoint.
We
Is that
don't
right?
need a PowerPoint to talk about. But yeah, so this is one of our monthly Q&As, which was rescheduled from last month because me and Nick were both quite burned out, I think, and I double booked. And now this month I've got a cold, but I'm coming towards the end of it. But if I start randomly coughing and leave Nick on their own, it's not intentional.
I'll just
Can't
talk to
help
myself.
it, but I've got to do something. I'm fed up of doing the nothing. Damn ADHD. But yeah, so my name is Tanya Adkin. I'm one of the trustees at AP UK. I'm sure many of you are familiar with me, and if not, then you probably will be soon. And I hate doing that thing where you reel off all of the things that you've ever achieved in life, because this is who you are. Which I'm just about to ask Nick to do. So Nic King of
The other
Panama.
thing that I also really hate,
Yeah.
I am
Nick
Nic
King.
King. I own pandas. Pandas online, that pandas. And I made the NeuroBears. They're there too.
Mm,
And I have courses for young people to young adults now.
mm.
And I do
Which has
training.
my
And
face in it a lot.
that has your face in it. It has a few other people's face in it.
Yeah.
Faces are good.
Yeah.
And then training and licensing and research and things.
Yeah.
Definitely things and stuff.
So all the autism training things for young people to older people to all sorts, and research and supervising researchers and all the autismy stuff in that kind of neck of the woods, if you like. So
Yep.
for those of you that don't know, NeuroBears is a really kind of simple kind of, I want to say simple, but because
It
to
is
me
simple.
and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's a really kind of like simple video course for young people and their families to explore like autism and autistic identity through a non-pathologizing lens that's delivered by autistic people and young people, because Zed, your kind of offspring, is on there, was like writing it and delivering it as well, weren't they?
Oh yeah, Zed was with NeuroBears. Zed was involved from the very start.
Yeah, and it's like NeuroBears, it's like the simplicity of it is the beauty of it, I think. But it's used as a kind of facilitator, a conversation starter, like to bolster interoception, to get families talking about things. Because how many times have we been asked that question? Like, how do you tell a kid they're autistic? And I always find that puzzling, because I'm like, well, you just say, hey, do you know what? You're autistic.
Hmm.
Um,
Exactly.
so I guess it gives kind of adults a bit of a script and that knowledge, and it kind of like creates that really equalizing, kind of co-regulating journey of discovery that's together,
Yeah.
rather than this kind of parent-child, very neurotypical kind of led vibe, which it,
Hmm.
it doesn't really work for us with us autistics very well.
Also, there's still quite a lot of parents out there that don't know they're neurodivergent.
Until they do NeuroBears with the kids.
Well, also that, but like a lot of them are still not quite, they're not quite there yet. And that's fine. But it's, I think one of the privileges we had as a household is that we had adults diagnosed before we're children. And I do think that's a privilege. And obviously, in generations to come, that will be something that happens far more often than it doesn't. But I do think it's one of the privileges that we had as a household that we had adults diagnosed before the kids.
And it's such a bizarre thing, isn't it? Because I often use the term baby autie, and I never really mean that in a way that you are a young autistic person. I mean, in terms of being young in your discovery journey
Hmm.
and what that means. And I think it's a really fun to watch families go through that kind of self-discovery of identity, isn't it? When they're both on the same level, because
Hmm.
I often find that children have a distinct
Children have a really good knowledge of themselves, and they do actually have a really good knowledge of themselves. And the thing is, I think in our research, so we did, there was 136 of them started the NeuroBears research with Newcastle University, and then I think there was 60 odd that completed it, and the average age was like 10 and a half of them doing it out of the kids' data. And realistically, they had an incredibly good understanding of themselves. They had an incredibly good understanding of themselves before NeuroBears, but then they had like an even better understanding of themselves after NeuroBears. That it could show that it had a significant impact. But a lot of people that look at that research and they're like, "How old are these kids?" And I'm like, 8, 10. You know, the majority of them were 8 and a half or 10 and a half. Um, and people are like, because they also wrote the answers to the research themselves, people are like, like, and they're really, really shocked by the level of understanding. And I have to say, if ever I do, so I do some post-diagnosis, like one-to-ones for families, with like some private contractors. And I tend to always start those meetings with the young people going, which one is it? Which one? Which one is no? Like they always, always know which of their parents is neurodivergent and like autistic, and I've never ever had one even hesitate for like a second, like to not know which of their parents is, neurodivergent. Are you breathing? Breathing's a fun thing that you can do.
breathing is back.
Good. I
Woo!
like breathing.
I know. I've been absolutely fine all day, so I was like, yep, can do this.
And
And
now we've
obviously,
tried to speak.
well, I did actually manage a fair bit of speaking earlier, so I was like, yes.
I'll just
So yeah.
literally talk. I'll talk to myself over Zoom. It's not like I don't do it all
Yeah,
the
so if I
time.
disappear again, it's the cough. But yeah, so I think that's why it was a bit, I thought, we had a lot of requests to talk about like newly discovered in your journey and
Mm.
identity and what that means. So I was
Mm.
like, who better to do that than the person
The
that
person with all the
researched it?
research. That
Yeah, so
definitely
do you want to
happened.
talk about why that like kind of identity is important? Because I think even a few people have looked at it and gone, well, what do you mean autistic identity?
Well,
Like,
it's
what is
fundamentally
that?
understanding yourself, isn't it? It's understanding that you are autistic, but I think autistic identity refers to something like slightly outside of the DSM criteria. So if you look at the DSM criteria, we are essentially broken. We are, rigid and like, what else are we? It's quite dehumanizing, and we have sort of all these deficits. I think the word deficits used 6+ times. And we have, failures in communication and failures in this, that, and the other. And even outside of any kind of, nobody identifies that. No human identifies within the deficits. No human is like talking about, the worst part of their lives. I quite often say to professionals, nobody's putting their driving penalty convictions on LinkedIn. You're not like, I've got 3 points and I made a mistake and I went too fast in my car, or I got a driving ticket or something. I don't know. And this is the thing, because obviously when they're diagnosed and being diagnosed, they have to be framed against the DSM or the ICD. And that is inherently dehumanizing. And then I think when we talk about autistic identity, we talk much more about sort of autistic culture, autistic communication, autistic relationships, autistic sort of. It doesn't have to be positive. It's not like we're talking sunshine and rainbows here. We're just talking about you are who you are. And I think something else that I particularly talk about in like unpacking understanding is that your identity is also fluid. Do you know what I mean? How I identified at 15 would probably something along the lines of student, because I was still at school. Alternative, because I was having a good goth phase by then. Like, I think I probably still would have identified within feminism. I think by that point I was just starting to identify as neurodivergent, but I did not think I was autistic at that point because it was, the 90s still, just. Do you know what I mean? And girls really weren't autistic then. Um, so
And that's so important for like your mental health, isn't it? As much as we kind of kick back about that, you know, about how, everybody's unique and that is absolutely true, but it's about it's about having that felt safety and sense of knowing in your own body mind
Mhm.
and what makes up you. So like when you talk about your clothes, your interests, and when you handed this kind of label or identifier of autistic with everything that's negative that comes with it,
Mhm.
what we know is that a massive antidote to what's called minority stress for autistic people is community. And with community, that's how you build your identity, because identity is almost built on like mirrors as
Mhm.
well. Um, and I think that's what you kind of latched onto, wasn't it, when you created NeuroBears, for example, was the fact that, hang on a minute, if we can catch these people so young before all that pathologizing nonsense and trauma has seeped in there,
Yeah.
and and kind of say to them, look, before you read any of that stuff, you're not broken. This is how your brain works. There are other people like you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are going to say really things that just don't sit right with you. But that's not who you are. You're a lot of other things too,
Mhm.
you know?
I describe it like putting them on the right algorithm, because you will get a very, very different search result if you like search for autistic communication as if you suppose like search for some sort of like a deficit-based language. The difference between searching for like monotropism and obsessive interests is massive. And I want them to be searching the word monotropism and not obsessive behavior. Do you know what I mean? I want them to be searching the word monotropism and not rigid thinking. I want them to be searching the word monotropism and not, I don't know.
It's dropping the pathologization. And this, I always say this, that this always kind of like baffles me. Well, it doesn't baffle me because it's the state of the world, but when we look at, how I feel about things like monotropism, double empathy, and autistic theory, like I'm like, woo, monotropism. But anyway, um, theories and things like that, which we now have some evidence of, are always framed as like this unrealistic positive view on something that is so devastating for families. But actually, if you look at things like, the neurodiversity paradigm, and you look at, neuroaffirming practice and monotropism and double empathy, it's not positive at all. It's just aggressively neutral,
Mm.
like so neutral. And you know, I think for any kind of like, and I'm probably preaching to the converted already, but for anybody that's kind of like on the fence in terms of like, neuroaffirming practice, whether it's the neurodiversity paradigm, monotropism, whatever it is, what I would say is actually, when you look at it, it's so very neutral. And that it's in itself just kind of allows that space for identity to come from, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you can go, okay, so my brain might align with monotropism. What does that mean for me in my identity? Well, the first thing that it does when we start looking at neuroaffirming stuff is it removes shame.
Mm.
And that is like, it must, I mean, I don't know about you, but I love working with young people because not that I don't love working with older people, but I do try and keep my hand into one-on-one work as much as
There's
I can
something
because
special about it. And
there
there
is. And actually, it's like that's what feeds my kind of passion and my knowledge for all my like writing and other work that I do. Um, but to just watch that happen in real time and
Mm.
help them and just witness that kind of identity building and that like, kind of rejection of that pathologization. And I think that's what we went back to. It's often easier for children than it is adults, but you are moving up the age groups, aren't you? So we've done the wee ones, the NeuroBears, which the Cubs, is that Cubs?
Yeah, so Cubs is for the under eights, and that is literally a cartoon which is just sort of trying to start to think about your brain. Do you know what I mean? What my brain's good at, where my brain feels comfortable, where my body feels comfortable,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how
Then
I
we
would prefer to do things.
yeah, then we move when we move along, we've got
NeuroBears,
NeuroBears.
yeah, which is
And we
8 to 14-ish. I
ish,
think
yeah, because
ish.
everybody's on their own trajectory, aren't they, in terms of understanding, but not only understanding, but also readiness as well.
Yeah, and I think like when we first, because obviously NeuroBears is now on 2.0 and it's much shinier. But when we first recorded NeuroBears, I think Zed was like 11,
And
and
how
NeuroBears
old
was never
now?
for
Oh,
them.
they're an adult now.
The 16.
Oh wow, that makes me feel really old, Nick.
Yeah, ditto. Um, but like Zed was 11, and NeuroBears was never for Zed because Zed already knew all of that stuff. But Zed had been diagnosed for 6, 7 years at that point, and obviously had me as a parent. Um, But there are plenty 11-year-olds out there that aren't diagnosed yet and don't understand yet. And I
And
think this
I
is
always think we do that as well. We assume that diagnosis means that like the heaven opens and all this information is like downloaded into your brain, and all of a sudden you know what your needs are. And I always find this really bizarre how with young people, especially in schools, it
we're
drives
constantly asking them what they need and
properly
not giving them any
asking
language.
them what they
Yeah.
need and them not even knowing what their needs are, not giving them the tools to actually build that identity and understand what their needs are as well.
I think it's
Um,
why one of the reasons why NeuroBears' most common age of use is 10 and a half. And
yeah.
it's when they do that transition from primary to secondary, like everyone seems to get it out. And like,
Oh, so somebody's just commented saying that their DS, so their son, is delighted to see Nick here. After the context of watching her in the NeuroBear videos, big thanks to Reading University Centre for Autism for facilitating the course. It's been brilliant and so affirming.
oh,
We're
I
all
just
so
had a meeting
proud
with
of
them
his
last week.
NeuroBears workbook and personal profile.
Reading's currently doing so Newcastle Uni did research in what we call the family model, in that like kids do it at home with their parents.
Mm.
Reading's just about to go into their third phase for what we call the licensed model, where professionals deliver it to families.
Oh,
But I did have a meeting last week about it, and I heard it was going well and being appreciated. So it's nice to hear from the other side, and that they're not just, telling me that
if not
they're not
slightly
doing good.
alarming that somebody's seen you on the TV and they think, and it's like,
Oh,
oh my God, I
that's
forgot we
quite
did
real.
that.
That's quite real.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. But then, anyway, back on track, ADHD.
Ever.
So we did NeuroBears, and then we moved up the age groups a little bit more. I say we because, like, I feel like I've slightly been on this journey with you
To be
over
fair,
the years. Yeah.
not well, you were slightly there, but also I think you got quite a lot of the fallout from when it went from I'm going to make something that's 6 hours to oh my goodness, it's 20. Help.
And then some. But
And
and then we
yeah,
moved on to unpacking understanding. So
yeah.
talk to us about unpacking understanding. And I think this kind of you'd look at age groups as quite a linear thing, but there's, like we said previously, in terms of identity and the damage that's done, that changes immensely through the age groups and the experiences, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think I think at the heart of all the NeuroBears sort of things, I always sat down, um, imagined some young people and thought, right, what what do they need to know? What do I want to tell them? And I think that's where all of them started. With unpacking understanding, it got a little bit out of control.
But then
Um,
we did, what do they need to know? What do we need to tell them? And actually, we need to tell them everything.
Everything. Like I could have, it got to 20 hours and I could have kept going. I had to
Yeah.
stop.
So
Um, so
it's a
yeah,
little bit
unpacking
different as
understanding.
well, isn't
Okay.
it? The
What's that?
way that it's a little bit different as well.
Yeah, so unpacking understanding's got 29 other neurodivergent adults in it. So the research that came back from Newcastle University not only talked about how there was a significant, like, they felt it was really significantly important that they got mine, Kieran, and Zed's examples in NeuroBears. And not only that, but then 98% of them found it was like really important that it was delivered by autistic people. And however much I can talk about a lot of things, a lot, I felt it was important to have more faces and more voices, and that's what we did.
And also, like, why not tap into your market? You can get autistic people to talk about the specialist subjects.
I did.
I know. I did it.
That's what I did. Because,
There
it
you
made them
go.
happy.
Yeah, that
Also,
makes us, it makes everybody happy. And I
it
think,
also made them happy. It's
yeah,
practically like therapy for some of them as well, I think.
yeah,
Um,
it was, especially when you're asking questions like, what would you say to your younger self? And it's like, oh my
I asked
God.
every single person what they would say to their younger self. It was great.
And I bet if you, every single time you ask me, it would change immensely. Immensely.
Possibly. I think there was a general theme of like if I'd figured myself out sooner and figured out that like the timeline was a lie and if I'd just gotten off the like doing what everyone else was doing boat and just done my own thing sooner, that would have been helpful. I think that was probably if there was
It's
a
none of it
theme.
is real. It's all made up. Like all of these shoulds, woulds, and coulds. I think that
Yeah.
was the theme, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So let's talk about adults then.
Mm.
Adults. So you've not done adults yet. I know that you've done a lot with Kieran, haven't you? Which kind of
There's a lot of
inadvertently,
adult stuff out there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But if you were going to do it from a neurobears perspective, where would you start with autistic identity or self-discovery? Let's say as an adult you would come into it and like, because I guess like knowing oneself or that idea of authenticity, I think that permeates autistic culture when actually what is authentic, and that whole like rhetoric around like masking and unmasking and stuff can create this idea that almost creates a double mask
Yeah.
that you're not being autistic enough or that, what does that look like? And there's the language and or, there is definitely an autistic culture.
I normally start whenever I do work with adults is essentially stop being so hard on yourself, which is slightly ironic because I probably could model that more, but shush, that's not the point we're going with.
Those who can't teach.
Yeah, those who can't teach, like, just all accept that. But no, I think reasonably, I think a lot of people need, I think a lot of people try and start to think about masks and think about rerunning their entire life in a different scenario where they knew they were autistic.
Mm.
But actually, that stuff's really difficult and really complicated, and that's not the place to start from. The place to start from is essentially self-forgiveness because you didn't know what you didn't know.
Yeah, and unlearning and learning what a pathology paradigm is and how we're fed messages about ourselves, and it's not our fault,
No, of course it's not.
and not having that turn into being a little bit like we are sometimes, where we say, we're not good at being easy on ourselves. But the thing is, I think for me, it's also understanding that, it's autism plus environment equals outcome. We love a golden equation here, but the environment that we live in, the world that we live in, is constantly giving ourselves negative messages. So I guess a part of forming identity is to consistently remind ourselves and put ourselves in environments that remind us that these aren't real.
I think I see a lot of adults who feel like they've somehow failed either once or multiple times. And then that sort of that message about environment and monotropism and how actually you were going up Everest without oxygen when people were telling you were walking along a country lane and you just needed to try harder.
Mm.
It's a lot. It's a lot for people to like
Even
unpack.
now, I'm like, like the imposter syndrome never goes. I mean, how many years is it that I've been speaking quite publicly about autistic experience and defining autistic experience, even in some places? But even now, I'm like, are we sure I'm autistic? And then I'll do some, oh, yeah, there it is.
Yeah. I think it's when you like accidentally put yourself into a very neurotypical space and you're like, oh, I remember.
Yeah, yeah, I remember. Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Not everybody does that.
Not everyone does that.
Yeah, and it
And I,
creeps up on you, doesn't it? Now, the ADHD, I mean, I'll be fair, when they gave me that diagnosis, I was like, yeah, fair, fair, I'll take that one. Yeah, that's obvious. Um, but the autism diagnosis, and it's bizarre, isn't it? And I think, like, as somebody who's advocated quite publicly for autistic rights and campaigned and written and researched and presented, it's almost like we hold ourselves to impossible standards that we can never be impacted by internalized ableism. We can never need the affirmation of a formal diagnosis, when in actual fact, that's just doubling down on the shittiness that got us to think that we were broken in the first place. That's always an interesting one for me. And that's where I'm at the minute. It's working on that self-compassion and going, actually, it's not my fault. It's the environment that I've been in.
yeah.
And
And
I think that's why community spaces are also really important.
I think as well that and that we need to maintain a community as well. Because it's very easy for work to get burnt out and run out of time. And charities, are not necessarily guaranteed to be around forever either. Do you know what I mean? There's big ADHD one that went recently, wasn't there?
Oh, I don't
Um,
know.
and that we support and affirm those spaces as well because they are important.
Mm, mm.
Because we do need to sort of find each other. But there needs to be balance to that as well.
Yeah.
It needs
And
to
that's
be a
that's why, AP
fair space.
UK, like, we're looked at. Did you say we're classed as a large charity now?
Yeah, you will be.
We deliver peer support by autistic parents for autistic parents. It's run by a board of trustees that are all autistic parents with varying different intersectionality things and identities happening. And
I'm trying to not sing Hamilton, you get the job done at you. I will.
yeah, we deliver therapy to autistic parents, um, all sorts of different, but it's all based on peer support. So whether it be like this,
Mm.
which is us peers, coming on the live so people can join it, whether it's Facebook groups, Discord services, it servers, interest groups, one-to-one peer support, counseling, whatever it is. I think it's like identity is central to all of it, really.
Because
And
sometimes you just need to be seen.
yeah,
Like there's not a solution to a
Or
lot
you
of the
just need
stuff.
to be around people like you. And I always say this, like I don't know about you, but when I'm back in my baby Autie days, um, like I was sat there thinking, but I don't fit in with these people, and I don't fit in with that person, and I don't fit in. And it took me like a little while to click that actually the commonality was in not fitting in. It wasn't in being the same.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Well,
I also
listen, I take
think
things literally.
I see, and it's part of a political agenda.
Mm.
I see a lot of trying to separate the community at the minute as well into sort of, high, medium, and low functioning,
Or high masking.
or high masking, or I think we should just explain to all of them that we don't like heights and just stop it. But I think I was having a conversation the other day about, talking again about sort of separating people out into functionality labels. And I was trying to explain how it's not necessarily the autism and it's possibly, other co-occurring conditions. And even if it was leveling again, that it's only a snapshot of an exact age or an exact moment, and that's not necessarily a thing either. And that,
It's ridiculous. I always say it's a bit like law and policy, right? Functioning labels are trying to apply a very fixed, rigid, or positivist, and if you want to use research terms, solution to A, something that's not a problem, and B, to a relativist issue. It doesn't work. um and that's why we have, people and humanity and neurodivergence, and it's all very, very varied. Like, if we're trying to categorize people, you couldn't make enough categories because every single person would need their own category.
exactly. And I think I was sort of I took the argument about other sort of minority communities and how they've sort of, LGBTQIA plus was a fairly obvious one to go for because it's recent as well. I was like, separating off the T's out of that community, separating off the transgender people has hurt the whole community. Separating like the black community out into shades has hurt the whole community.
Yeah.
And, separating us out into different types would hurt the whole community. And we need to be together as a community and understand that we do have differences between each other, but we have me and you are different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just
But in terms
because,
of functioning labels, we tick exactly the same boxes.
I mean, depends what week it is for me at the
Well, yeah,
minute. But
that's fair.
yeah.
I did
Yeah,
like
on
4 days
Sunday
a
we
week
weren't,
and
yeah, you weren't functioning at all.
5
And
minutes ago. Oh,
that's part of the problem, isn't it? And
yeah.
I think there is within our autistic identity, I think there is a bit of a push to sort of separate we're out a little bit within the community. And I think if we are staying away from pathological models around the DSM, around the ICD, and we stick to autistic identity, I think it's so important that we stay together as a community, even for all of us,
Yeah.
because I don't want to be away from my autistic peers who also happen to have a genetic condition, or my autistic peers that also happen to have a learning disability.
Or my autistic peers that don't also identify with ADHD,
Yeah,
or that don't identify with masking, or
yeah, because
everybody's unique thing. And I always say this about, like, when I write things about like monotropism split, meerkat mode, masking, whatever it is, like, I'm not writing to say this is how things are. Like, it's
no.
not a fixed point. What I'm saying is these things are really helpful for me and the people that I've used it with. And this might be a really helpful way for you to understand yourself a bit better and start forming a little bit of an identity and a little bit of self-understanding and compassion.
Mm.
If not, then that's okay. Um, and
Also, I
yeah,
think as well, because things like monotropism and the double empathy problem have only really kind of started dissolving down into mainstream training within the last
Well, I don't
Let's go
think they
with
have.
5 years.
I don't think they have at all. I think
No
it's that we exist in that bubble, that people come to us when they want to put it in mainstream training.
training. And this isn't new stuff. Do you know, 2012, it's over a decade ago now.
Well, I think it was early 90s, wasn't it? It was the earliest one. So I always say that monotropism was the first, and this is what happens through community, right? Because if we look back at the history of autism and we look back at like the kind of like Asperger's diagnosis and so forth, in the like the 70s and the 80s, when that kind of had like a resurgence and people were starting to have that identifier. And then when they grew up and were like, hang on a minute, this doesn't represent me, those people went into research and those people started writing their own narratives. And that's when, if you think about it in terms of a timeline,
Mhm.
that's when you got people like Wen Lawson and Dinah Murray and Mike Lesser that started writing about their experience and the experience of the children at the time that they were supporting as being monotropic,
Mhm.
you know. So now that's then gone on with the next generation 20 years later, like, and in my mind, like the research and knowledge and understanding of autism has changed so much from that point of the 1990s when we started writing our own narratives and creating our own community understanding. It
Mhm.
has come on massively, far more than it ever has in the last 114 years,
Yeah, roughly.
because we've been allowed to tell our own stories and write our own narratives. And what comes along with that is a challenge, and it's a challenge to, and this is what I don't understand why about people who reject the neurodiversity kind of idea of neuroaffirming care or neuroaffirmative treatment, or the neurodiversity paradigm as kind of being like determinist, because
Mhm.
it's actually the opposite of that. It's almost like, tell me you don't understand neurodiversity without telling me you don't understand neurodiversity, you
Yeah.
know? And I just think, if this is what we've done in 20 years, what are we going to achieve in the next 20? So let's keep indoctrinating those brains with positive autistic identity as young as possible, please.
But we do need to, because
Yeah.
there are plenty narratives at play that are not. Do you know what I mean? We
I mean,
are.
I am fully aware that I hope to God that in like 20, 34 years time, when I'm like an old codger or whatever, which is not as far away as the Botox would have you believe, although it has worn off. But I fully am prepared for somebody to read my work and go, oh my God, that's awful. That's so pathologized. And I can't believe that because things are going to be moved on, or they're going to read it and be like, oh, I can't believe they didn't know that. Like, I
I am
want that to
completely
happen.
ready to be the crazy lady that explained autism with pandas, and it's really inappropriate because they're bears and not humans, and it's dehuman.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I can absolutely sit here and be like, my bears, go away. But
Yeah.
like, it's not like I haven't sat and thought about that, because I
Yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah. But I
And,
want that
and
to
that's fine.
happen. Like, that's what I want to happen,
Yeah.
you know.
And it should happen. It should become so normalized to talk to young people about being autistic the second they self-identify or are diagnosed, that
Yeah.
this shouldn't be needed at all.
And we
I
do
shouldn't, we
that,
shouldn't
and we
need to
can
be
do that as
explaining it with
well.
bears.
Yeah, and we can do that by supporting autistic parents to do that as well. Like,
Because
to
this
undo like
is,
all of that, in like almost indoctrination of self-hate that we've been pumped with, that we're broken.
but that's sort of
We
what we're going into. We will be near enough the last generation to go into parenting not knowing we were autistic.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah,
this is it. Do you know what I mean? We are it.
and it's
I mean, there'll
hard.
be a few. It's not like it's a catch-all. It's not Pokemon, but we will hit a generation soon where they will go into being parents knowing their neurodivergence.
Yeah. And I'm wondering actually if that's so. I'm wondering if anybody watching kind of, is that kind of across the board that you wish you knew, if you're like, I'm assuming that most are late identified that are watching, like, would that have made a difference to you to know that you were autistic younger? Because I do wonder if it would or not, because actually even like, I'm very aware with it about the bubble that I exist within. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
And that we assume that this is the norm and it's not. And actually, there are so many adults that I work with who were given these diagnoses so young, and their parents, you know, might have dragged them to groups and so on and so forth, but the information just was not available. You know,
No.
and I still think that we very much have that problem still. I remember when my first was kind of like identified as autistic, and I was basically given a printout of some leaflets um with some support groups on it.
Mm.
And it was always doom and gloom about the carer. It was always carer based.
Yeah, yeah, the parents. Yeah.
And I felt like it was a self-fulfilling prophecy almost of like, this is really hard. Like, you're telling me it's really hard before I've even got to the hard bit. Like, it's school that's having the problems. We don't experience demand avoidance at home, you know, because
Because we
do
just
the
don't do it.
we just live in the autism way, you know, in the way that's just quite equalizing and, you know, just direct and understanding of everybody's roles. Not that it's not difficult sometimes, because I think every family is difficult, but it's framed as difficult before you've even got to talk to anybody. And actually, the lived so the one thing that drove me crazy, like recently, was I went into what's called a CETR meeting. I was supporting a parent and a young person. And for those that don't know, a CETR meeting is care education treatment review for young people who are autistic or learning disabled that are at risk of inpatients, mental health inpatients. And we all know that's a really bad thing for autistic young people, because once you come in, you don't tend to come out, and it's awful. The person with lived experience on the panel was the parent of a learning disabled autistic young girl.
Mhm.
And we were talking about a young man who was exceptionally cognitively able, experiencing mental health crisis, but the person on the panel with the lived experience was a parent of a
Yeah.
learning disabled autistic child.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why we have sayings like nothing about us without us.
Yeah.
Which drove me absolutely potty, because the people who did have the lived experience of that panel of being autistic and experiencing mental health challenges in their later teens were me and the parent.
Yeah.
But of course, who was spoken over the most? Because in that, you can't be more than one thing, can you? And that I find that really difficult as well, like fate interacting with the world, because once they put you in the autism part and they start speaking slowly to you, I've had that happen in a meeting.
Mm.
I just sat there, was like, are you okay? Do you need a drink of water? Or
Do you
you
have
know, you
COVID?
can't also be an expert and a parent or a, do you know what I mean? It's so
Oh
difficult.
no. And that always drives me wild
But
in
they
that.
say that we're rigid thinkers.
Yeah, no, it drives me crazy in that I am
So
a professional and I am asked, and then I walk into a room and somebody calls me mum, and I'm like,
I can't even stand it when my own quiz call me mum, honestly. I threaten to change my name 3 times a day.
I think particularly because I'm in the Northeast, it's because my children don't call me mum, and that's what parents tend to get up here. And if a professional calls me mum, I'm like, ooh, ooh, no, thank you.
So Bex has just said it would have meant so much to me personally and my identity to be identified as a child and a child or teen.
Mm,
But in terms of the time, that would have been late 80s or 90s. It
yeah.
doesn't feel like it would have made any difference more widely to others who would have understood what my autism and autistic identity meant. And even now, like we are, who was it who said, I think it was, so I was fortunate enough when I did my masters to have some like really great mentors, and one of them was Luke Beardham. I can remember him saying that we are at the coalface of autism knowledge production, and we
Mm,
really bloody are. That's quite frightening, isn't it? But
mm.
also, you know, it, especially with like the advent of the internet, if you like, it, we really do have an
The ability to
opportunity.
find each other.
Yeah, and but an opportunity to create that culture and that kind of
Absolutely.
identity and shared experience. And, you know, I work a little bit with a lady called Kelly Marler, who is the intersection queen, and I'm going to try and lasso her onto here at one point. And because she's such an interception queen, she loves it. interoception is the ability to feel on the inside. So it's talking about things like when you can't identify your emotions or you're not sure how you feel. And she always starts with, when we're born, nobody knows how we feel. We learn how we feel
Mm.
through co-regulation, through interaction with other people, through shared experiences and stuff like that.
Mm.
And then we wonder why half the autistic population's alexithymic. But creating that opportunity for shared experience and going, oh, that might be why I experienced such and such, or nobody ever told me about inertia before, or what do you mean monotropic? Well, that makes sense, or
Exactly. Absolutely, exactly. It's one of the reasons that I'm glad Reading's running it in the other model because some of my license holders run NeuroBears and then they run after NeuroBears groups where they keep the kids together. And
oh,
there's no pressure, but I love the ones that do, like really deeply because they find each other and they stick with each other. And it's lush.
yeah.
I love it because we need
And that, I guess
we
that's what
need
we're
each other.
doing right here now for parents, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like
because
finding little groups. You don't have to interact, but you can if you want.
and it's important because there's a lot of narratives out there. I think I was there's been a new thing put out by Bridget Filmson, the Education Secretary today,
Oh, I can't look.
about how like schools have to work more with, parents and this, that, and the other, and parents have to have a better relationship with like schools and telling the teachers to have better relationships with parents. And I've seen sort of, every teacher that's on TikTok going, but they're mean and they're nasty, and maybe they are. But actually, the majority of the problem I see with parents and schools is just the double empathy problem. And like that's it. Do you know what I mean? And
But
it's
also, I think it's fatigue from a teacher's perspective as well. And we see it
yeah.
an awful lot in social care. And it's not right by any stretch of the imagination, but you can, if we think of things in terms of monotropic split, right? I'm not saying that teachers experience that or even monotropism. Like the first thing that monotropism teaches us is that regardless of your neurology or identity or autism diagnosis or ADHD or whatever, or trauma, whatever you want to call it, right? Everybody has a finite amount of attentional resources.
Mhm.
And a lot of our services are being pushed so much that what there isn't space for is human connection and compassion.
Nor
And
is
we
the time for it.
recognise that in carers when we look at carer burnout. And we recognise that in our autistic selves when we look at autistic burnout. So I think when it comes to bridging that double empathy divide, I think that we need to look why that divide is being kept in place by the systems that benefits it.
Yeah.
Does that even make sense? That made sense. The
No,
words
I think a
really.
lot of people talk about the system being broken, and I'm like, it's not. It works exactly how they mean
It
it
works
to.
and this is the first thing that you learn about policy and practice and law when you start studying it, is that it's there to protect the machine, it's not there to protect the people. And politicians would have you believe it's there to protect the people in order to curry popularity, in order to keep the machine going. But neoliberal politics is working exactly in the way that it should be. It's favouring the market, and autistic people don't create productivity unless we're left to our own devices and let do what we got to do. And then we'll give you 29 hours on autistic identity for teens and young adults.
Yeah, yeah, I will.
Yeah,
Yeah, I will. Just leave me my own devices. Yeah,
yeah.
and
And
I,
it's,
yeah,
does anybody have any questions or like want to share any insights on autistic identity? Anything about autism? Like, I feel, it's such a weird topic, isn't it?
the one of the person that had done NeuroBears with Reading had said one of the facilitators were already volunteering at a group that he attends, so they already like knew each other. And
There needs to be more.
autistic adults, it's important that you kind of put yourself out in the wild, particularly in front of, young people if you can. You like young people. Find some
I
autistic young people to go bond with.
I like autistic young people. I like traumatized young people. I like young people that Like, I love a PDA and I look at the genius of it and I'm just like, good one, kid.
I
Good
really like
one.
the genius of it when it's not my personal
No, even
genius.
then I got to respect it because
Oh
I've
yeah,
done
don't get me
I did
wrong.
the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Like
I
I
just don't
helped
like
with
the
the
phone
whole
call.
reception of a school with a fire extinguisher once because I wanted to be left alone. But like I've done it. I'm like, nice one. Do you know what I mean? You've got to give it respect. I love the creativity of it. I love it. Um, and I love that passion, like when it's channeled in a direction. And I love the way, and everybody's like, well, how do you get them to do it? It's about not wanting them to do it in the first place.
Or just, yeah, accepting that you're not in charge. That's really hard for a lot of adults, though.
But you
Like,
are in charge. You're in charge of yourself and your own boundaries. You're always in charge of that. That's
I
why I
think that's a
don't feel
skill,
bad
though.
about not being in control.
I think out of, how I train everything, that isn't something that I've managed to properly train into people who aren't inherently able to do it in the first
Therapy.
place. You
It's the
can
only way
make
it
people
works.
better at it.
You got to therapize them.
But like, yeah, I've had a lot of adults where I'm like, but you just need to be this way with them, and they can't.
It's your boundary, isn't it? That's it. That's the only thing that you can be in control of reasonably. I feel like maybe we all need to send them on like a well-being course about what's in their sphere of control with David.
Control. Nothing really.
Why
But this
can you
is the thing is particularly
control?
teachers. Teachers spend like a year and a half in their teacher training being taught how to control a classroom, and this idea that you can control 30 odd kids is just ridiculous.
No, but what you can do is create a temporary consensual hierarchy.
Yeah.
Walker for that one.
Mm.
Yeah, I can remember I was speaking to, I think it was me, was it? I can't remember. Been asleep since then, but Nick Walker was talking about neuroqueering because
Mm.
that is what we're essentially talking about, isn't it? We're talking about people with neurologies that don't lie with the masses coming along and queering the system.
Mm.
Because when you deliver training, that's exactly what it is. We're neuroquerying. We're working along with it and figuring out what works and going off in different directions and sometimes just inverting things for the sake of it, just to be
Mm.
awkward. Um, but actually, how do you accept hierarchy in teaching and how do people come into, oh, they're going by he, him at the minute. How do people come into his dojo with, the creator of neuroqueer theory and accept that kind of teaching and stuff? And that's what it's consent. It's consent based. It's give me something that tells me that I can trust you, I can listen to you, that you aren't a threat, that there is something for me worth learning here that is intrinsically motivating in a way that I can learn it,
Mm.
and again, it's all tied up in identity, isn't it? Like, because if you treat people in a very human, equal way, then they will believe that they are human and equal.
But also, I've never done that thing with kids. You know how people put on like a slightly higher voice and a slightly sort of like merrier tone. Never, never
Inside
ever done.
voice, please.
Just like, "Ah, ah, oh, no, I never have.
No, no. No, it doesn't work for me either.
No. I see people trying to do it to my youngest, and they're like, what? What?
Are you okay?
Are you okay?
We can spot masking a mile away.
This is the thing. Yeah, but it's a mask, isn't it? And it's a mask that's not necessarily appreciated.
No, it's not. Yeah. So what's next for pandas, do we think? What's next for like NeuroBears or cubs or like are we
Me
gonna
and
add more to NeuroBears? Are we gonna
hmm, currently, what we're doing is
is
we're
having a break and getting over the trauma of doing unpacking
slightly.
understanding?
I'm doing it live. So there's Eventbrite's on my socials, and I'm doing it live with Zed. So what that looks like is it's because it is very big. I'm breaking it down into topics, and we're doing a topic a fortnight, me and Zed. And I kind of hope that again, just it's about sharing a room that possibly probably looks a bit like your house, in that there's an adult in the room and a teenager in the room, and then there's, whoever of the 29 in the relevant videos. So the next one's energy accounting. So I think you're in there, Sarah Jane Critchley's in there, the Level Up girls are definitely in there, and I feel like Amy
And what
Pearson.
age? Do you think that's something that like adults could do as well?
Well, I think, so I've said it's 14 plus with their like parent, but I think we're definitely in the region of like young adults under 25s. Currently, there are some adults in my life who are like in their 40s who have watched NeuroBears where they're like, why isn't this for me? And I think that is probably in there more than I
That's
think
what we were
it
talking
is.
about with the baby auti thing, isn't it? It's not linear.
No, it's not. Um, so that's there. And then, like always, I do have another training written in my head, but I also have a small human who isn't in school anymore. So that's gonna
Mhm.
have to balance out somehow.
I don't even want to ask you about the training in your head because the next thing you know, I'll be roped in to deliver it. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. It won't be what it's eventually called because bearing in mind my training, what I title it as in the initial Word document is never what it's eventually called. But it's currently called Polar Bears Aren't White and You Want a Swear Word Disco Ball. That's what it's currently called.
I am
Polar
gonna
Bears Aren't
ask
White and You Want
why,
It
but I
Disco Ball.
I have no idea that's and also oh Bobby's just logged on. Oh, I'm late. I'm gonna stay on Facebook. Yes, it stays up for 30 days, I think. So Demelza was saying, I definitely think having a third party delivering the course was very helpful, especially for demand avoidance and parental sanity.
I
Yeah,
hear that a lot, you know. I hear that even from professionals that license it, where they're like, my kid wouldn't have taken that information from like myself
well,
as
it's
their
the
parent.
framework that we work within, isn't it? It's that societal where you go, you learn from some great wise person, and this is the behavior that's expected there. And then you go home, and your mum's like there to make pizza. And
Am I the great wise one in that scenario? Thanks.
oh, great. Well, you might be in someone's scenario, but I'm pretty sure in kind of like your little one's scenario, you are
Oh
mum that
no.
provides pizza.
Yeah, I'm definitely fall into it provides chicken nuggets.
Yeah, I got that with my eldest, who he's like 13, coming up 14 next year now, so he's year nine, he's younger. Um, and he sent me a TikTok where somebody had explained autism using cats, and I was like, oh, finally, he's interested. You know, he goes to a specialist autism school. Don't get me wrong, a really good one by standards as well. But it's like, finally, he's interested. It's like, this is my opportunity. Don't screw it up, mum. You know, I was like, so I just, yes, mate, that's about right. But we could talk about it if you want to understand. He was like, no.
No. Do you know that's sort of where unpacking understanding really came from? One of my very original NeuroBears users who got like draft one of NeuroBears before it was even public,
Mm.
is like a test group, came back to me and was like 3+ years later, I know that. Where do I go now? And I sent them to a bunch of like YouTube and TikTok creators, and I was like, this is awful. Um, because however much I sent them to decent places and decent people, you don't know where that next scroll's taking them.
Yeah, where the algorithms go in. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, so I'm writing a teen course now.
Yeah.
20 hours later.
Oh, thank you.
I say 20 hours later. It
I
was
just had a
like, oh,
delivery of honey and lemon like an hour after my coughing fit.
yeah, I say 20 hours later. That's just 20 hours of content. It took me about a year.
Yeah, no, it took significantly longer than that, but you know, that's fine.
Took a while.
But yeah, so identity on the whole, what does it mean?
I think we need particularly to think about identity as something that's fluid and that's okay. So we can have different relationships with our autistic identity at various different points in our lives. Sometimes we can feel really positive about that. Sometimes you can feel very neutral about that. Sometimes if it's like feeling negative, then it's okay to feel the feels that it's a negative thing. But definitely go and find some more people in your community if you feel like that way. And then, because there's lots of parts of our identity that are fluid and changeable. Sometimes you feel really positive about being a parent, and then sometimes you feel less positive about being a parent. And sometimes you feel really positive about being a woman, and sometimes you feel a lot less positive about being a woman. And we can have lots and lots of different parts of our identity, including our autistic identity. And that can be from everywhere, from something that's really complicated and complex that you need to sit and actually therapize and unpack, to something that you feel incredibly positive about. Or I hope most people just get to a state of neutrality about it, in that it just is.
And that's my favorite thing. It's the neutrality of it. It's the neutrality, I think, gives you the autonomy to create your own identity and try on what fits for you. I mean, I don't like trains. It doesn't mean I'm less autistic. You know?
I'm directly related to the bloke who invented trains, and there is nothing more autistic than that.
Oh, good God, don't tell my other half that. You're never at the end of it.
He was just down the road, quite literally, like a mile that way.
Yeah.
It's true.
Oh God. Bobby, what was Bobby saying? So the teen course was badly needed when mine were teens, now 24 and 27. So I'm extremely happy that others will benefit, as it's so needed.
And Bobby's there. Bobby's there talking about hypermobility and chronic pain, and we have a brilliant rant about pain skills in it. It's beautiful
Mm, mm,
because there's so much they need to know. There's so much they need to know that's it's so far from the mainstream, like how being autistic with a pain scale is an entirely different experience.
Even understanding consent, understanding what a boundary is.
Yeah.
I never understood what boundaries were until somebody actually and I was questioning if I was autistic. Somebody had to literally explain the concept to me before I was like, oh, that's what that is, because it's an abstract concept.
That no is no.
Yeah. That no, that a boundary is something that you do to protect you, you know? Like nobody had ever named that. It was, and I don't think we're brought up being able to have boundaries either.
No.
We're raised to be compliant, and then we wonder why we don't understand what boundaries or healthy communication is.
I
And
also
by
think
we, I don't mean just autistic, I mean generally.
I also think we had in the UK a period in the 90s where that was, particularly in schools, slightly more lax than it is now, and it was slightly before us. So like the level of compliance that's expected, particularly in secondary schools now, is crazy.
I mean, do you know,
Um,
when I was in secondary school, and it wasn't that long ago, I'm only 40, but I just didn't go. I just
yeah,
fell off the radar.
I
Just
also, well, I didn't go full time.
misimplementation. And that was fine. And I think a lot of neurodivergent kids, like in my situation, probably did the same thing where they just didn't go. They went out to work with the parents or whatever, but now it's
Every second
education until
matters.
18 or be fined,
Yeah,
you know,
heavily.
which
Very
is just, yeah. And I think that's again why identity and community is important, because if we ever needed to teach people or learn to say no at any point in time, it's probably now and getting worse. Bobby was just saying both of us probably wouldn't survive in secondary now at all.
I wouldn't survive in secondary. Well, I wouldn't. I would be in detention every single day.
I sometimes have to go into schools for a few hours.
Mm.
I know I've been in.
Yeah, because it's
I
awful.
know I've been in, especially if I go at lunchtime. I try and avoid going at lunchtime so I don't have to do the hall, like the dinner
Mm.
hall. And why do school dinners, like the smell has never improved? Like, what is that about? How do they inherently, like, what is that about? Why do school dinners always smell so bad?
And it's a particular smell as well. Like if you go to
It's
a
a
work canteen,
particular,
it's not the same smell.
it's like a particular disinfectant mixed with like cheap mints or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And this is the, I think as well, it's an important message from, you know, the elders within our community. We need to be talking to our
yeah,
young people, and to be talking to our young people, we need to understand ourselves.
yeah.
We need to do the
To be
work
able
for
to
them.
have those conversations with our young people, we need to be having those conversations with each other
Yeah.
and finding community and understanding that, like, how do we feel? How do we feel safe?
Yeah.
You know?
Also, like even physically in your body, do you know what I mean? How does your body feel when you feel unsafe? And
Yeah,
do you know the difference between nervous, excited, and actually endangered?
yeah. And
And
if
have
you
you
don't,
had that
that's
conversation?
perfectly okay to not know that. But how are we going to find a different way to tell the difference?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And
So
we have to, we have to protect people in our community. And to do that, we need to have a good understanding of our identity and who we are.
who are we, Nick? Who are you, Nick?
Who am I?
Yeah.
What, in terms of like if I'm listing off my identity, I
Yeah.
tend
What
to
is your
go,
identity? What does identity mean to you?
I tend to go, because I ask people to do this a lot. I ask people to do the top 5 parts of their identity, and I tend to go with parent. I tend to go with like self-employed business ownery type thing. I tend to go with autistic and or neurodivergent. I tend to go with panda lady,
King of pandas. I love that. Nick, King of
like
pandas.
kind of pandas, and I tend to go with northern quite a lot. That like I feel like being northern is quite a strong part of my identity as well. So that's my 5. What's your 5?
Well, I suppose it depends who I'm talking to, and that's what we talk about, fluid, isn't it? Because some people know me as the HCP lady, some people know me as the monotropism lady, some people know me as the slightly sweary, ranty lady, some people some people know me as mum, but in this context, who am I? I'm like the autism nerd, a little bit of an imposter, the mum, you know,
Trustee.
and yeah, trustee, bit of my sins, um, bit gobby on the internet occasionally, you know,
Oh,
all
I
of
love
those
it.
different, we try, but all of those different things are part of your identity, and it's like I think when we start building that stuff within ourselves as well, and that kind of confidence within ourselves, within our own identity and understanding who we are, um, we stop looking externally for that so much.
Yeah. You
So
need
it
to sit with
creates,
it a bit.
yeah,
You do.
it
You need to sit
creates,
with it and learn.
yeah, it creates a kind of like when we know who we are, then we're not looking at other people to tell us who we are with all the negative messages. So
Yeah.
it really that building that identity really can help with things like RSD,
Mm.
like rejection sensitive dysphoria, and any kind of defensiveness. And that's not to say that you've got to go out and understand who you are, and it's a journey and it's evolving and all of these different things. And nobody like that idea of like knowing who you are. I always, we always say, oh, I'd never do this, I'd never do that, but actually truth is you'd never know until you're in that situation. So it's fluid and it's changing. But I guess when we talk about identity, instead of being fixed, it's about being liking who you are most of the time
Mm.
and like owning it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because when you know things about yourself, for example, when you know that you are honest, for me, I would be, what my values are like kind of honest, knowledge, fairness, like advocacy,
Mhm.
um, you know, not believing anything's really impossible if you want to do it badly enough, that'd be the monotropism. But all of those things like unshakable about me and my identity, largely created through me learning that I'm autistic in my community. So if anybody would call me dishonest,
Yeah.
it doesn't faze me because I'm not dishonest. Or if anybody would say that, I'm not neurofit or all of these, and that's the thing about identity, isn't it? When you can build that strong sense of identity,
Mm.
um, it makes you less liable to poor environments. It creates and I hate the word resilience, but because resilience is often co-opted by people who weaponize it.
Yeah.
But actually, if we're building resilience from a neuroaffirming perspective, it starts with being allowed to find our identity
Mm. Absolutely.
and being firm in that. Especially, Bobby's just said ADHD, parent, professional, American,
That's all right.
on board with aim for the rainbow, so queer.
Mm.
And yeah. And maybe actually when we're thinking about, everybody's saying that I wish I'd have known that I was autistic sooner, what they're probably saying is I wish I knew what the part of my identity was
Yeah.
sooner.
Exactly.
And that really is nothing to do with being given the label of autism, is it? It's to do
No.
with finding people that you align with. So
Absolutely.
exactly through the hate, and it rolls off because when you know who you are, then you become more resilient. And maybe we should change that meaning of resilience, shouldn't we? I feel like we should take it back. Maybe we should do a campaign to like reclaim that kind of resilience.
I think I'm far too triggered by the word resilience. I think I need a new word.
I kind of want to take it back
You
because,
you
like,
go and take that back. I'm not.
I know, no, because I went
I'll
through
catch
that,
up.
but like, don't say resilience to me because I was like, do you know what I mean? But
Yeah, yeah.
actually, like,
No,
no,
I'm
we
still
are
that.
resilient. We're incredibly resilient.
Exactly.
It's not us that's misunderstanding the definition here. We are very particular at words. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah. Yeah.
But we
Resilient.
should reclaim that resilience because we are incredibly resilient.
I've somebody I work with, Anna Knight, who's into that sort of that reclaiming of the throw the pillow at it type resistance.
Mm.
Resistance, resilience. And yeah, I'm not quite there yet. I think I have more trauma to unpack around the word resilience.
Especially if you've ever dealt with young people in a school system.
Exactly.
Exactly.
The reading the school, because I think in the NeuroBears research we gathered data from both, but the kids' data was it was hard to read.
Yeah.
It was because it was written in small. It wasn't written for them. It was written by them.
Yeah.
And it made a difference to how it was, how it read.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was definitely
Yeah.
hard. It wasn't an easy time. But they
No.
deserve to have their voice heard because they actually understand their identity better than quite a lot of us adults.
And that's the thing, isn't it? They understand their identity better, but then
They're
it's
in
almost
systems where
pulled
they
away
can't.
from them
Yeah.
as we get older. You know, we're stripped back of that individuality and identity because we've all got to aim for this golden ratio of human that doesn't exist, and we've got to learn by, you know, I am not a righty person. It's taken me a lot of years and an awful lot of time with my wonderful friend David Gray Hammond to actually be able to write things because I don't think in straight lines.
Yeah.
um my communication just doesn't communicate that way, you know. um that's a word now. I've decided communicating. um
Communicating.
but I spent most of my life, or right up until adulthood, thinking that I was stupid, like because I couldn't deliver the information in the format that was required of me. I couldn't write an essay, couldn't write things down, could say it, I could never show my workings out. Do you know what I mean? So I went from being like gifted and talented to stupid at to stupid. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, that like it's other people telling you that if you don't fit this certain box, then we're going to impose that identity onto you because you can't deliver it in a way that we want you to.
Yeah.
But actually, turns out that is absolutely not the case at all. Who knew?
It's somebody else's lens, isn't it?
Yeah. And it just doesn't fit. One size fits all just doesn't, you know. Anyway,
I know.
rambling.
I think it might be time to wrap up
I
because
was
I
just
can
about to
hear
say that.
something kicking off in my house.
I was just about to say that sounds like a good time to wrap up.
Yeah. Yeah. You know when you can hear things and you're like,
Oh my God, I've had longer than an hour. What's happening? For me,
yeah.
it's silence. When it goes too silent,
Yes. There's also that.
you know, you need a, like a middle
A
kind
moderate
of,
layer of not
a
kicking off,
moderate
but
layer
not too quiet.
of noise and the right playful screaming and the So on that note, thank you for joining us, everyone. I think we're back at the end of the month with Jill Beeson on the 28th, I believe. And I think we are talking about rejection sensitive dysphoria, actually.
It's a good
And
thing. It's another good thing to recognize in your identity and share with people because I don't have that at all. Like, I probably don't have it enough. Um, but like I know plenty of people who do, and I'm quite careful around like how I communicate with them because I know they do.
and it
Um,
gives you an explanation without shame, doesn't it? Mm. It gives you
and-
language to go, oh, this thing happens.
yeah, And like, or also when people sort of communicate with me in a way that I'm like, oh no, I don't do the rejection thing, you're all right.
Yeah.
But like at least I know why they're kind of like, I don't want to say over explaining it because it's dismissive, but like sometimes that is what is happening. And it's like, oh no, that's not me. But if it's you, thanks for telling me because I need to
How
think
I
about
knew how to
communication
communicate.
style with you.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. So yeah, back on the 28th with Jill Holly, or Jill Beeson, and Jill is an autistic ADHD counselor and therapist. So that'd be quite interesting to talk about rejection sensitive dysphoria and neuroaffirming therapy and how that all fits actually. So I suppose it's a bit of a continuing the theme of identity. So yeah,
Exactly.
bye for now, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Bye.